Hey everyone, welcome back to Xana Heroes Forge. This is part 2 of the Necron Warrior paint guide, where we will be showing you how to take the battle ready Necron Warrior up to a parade ready standard. So to begin with, we are going to be edge highlighting, which will require a smaller brush. You could use a small layer brush, but I will once again be using a ProArt ProLine brush. I just picked these up in my local paint shop and it has been really good. I do recommend using a brush like this. As you can see, the bristles are very fine compared to a Citadel small layer brush. You can see the difference is enormous. But if you're not too fussed on how tidy your highlights are, at least for the stage 1 highlights, then use a small layer brush or whatever you got to hand, but definitely make sure you've got a smaller point. So to start with, we will be highlighting the silver joints using Stormhost Silver. Before we do that, however, we are going to prep for the glow effect, which will be coming after the edge highlights. To do that, we're going to be using grey cere and painting it onto the small ball details on the Gorse weapon. So I'm just going to load it up onto the brush, and then we're going to come over to the Gorse weapon and just paint it on like that. You can also paint the coil of the weapon. Now it is quite a thin paint, so when doing the coil you might want to do 2 coats. You can also paint this bar here if you wish to, but I'm going to do it now. You don't have to, but I will. I'm just going to show you how to do that. Well, show you me doing it. I'm showing you this in full detail so that it's very clear how the glow effect is done. It's no good if you don't get the glow effect right, because I haven't shown you it now, is it? Of course, we've got both sides of this weapon to paint. Personally, I don't worry about trying to get the coils on this side too much, because if anyone's trying to pick your warriors up from this angle, it's a bit odd. You know, you're not going to be looking too much at this side of the model, so it's not too bad. Once these are done, we'll move on to the silver highlights, and then we will cut back once the silver highlights are done. Now, of course, you can also paint it onto this end bit. I'm going to do it just on the very tips of the weapon. And that's our prep for the glow effect done. Optionally, you can do it on the eyes as well. The eyes are the harder area to do it, so I only ever apply a glow effect to the ones with a damaged eye, where you can see it leaking out. And ever so slightly in that one we'll get in there a tiny bit. So that's our prep for the glow effect done. Just gonna catch those details we've missed, and then we'll move on to our silver effect. Obviously, you don't have to use the Stormhost Silver. You could go to a darker highlight than a lighter one. But because the Nihilakh scheme is already quite a dark paint scheme, we're going to be going up to a lighter colour. But as I said, it's completely up to you. So to begin with the first highlight, which is arguably the simplest one, all you're going to want to do is get some Stormhost Silver on your brush and paint the raised areas on the joints. But for the weapons, which is where I'm going to show you most of what to do. So just on the blade, you just sort of skim it along on areas like this, paint the whole bit, and then just pick a couple of spots on the rest of the weapon. I try and find the few little areas I've got dents in them and paint sort of around them, not on them but around them, and then the same on this side. So we're just going to skim it along the edge of the blade to pick some up there. And then we're going to come back in under here, I think is what we'll do. We'll skim it along the edge there, and then just a few little flicks onto that. And there you go, you can see the difference between the weapon and the warrior. So we're going to cut back once the silver's done, because we're already running quite long on our first little segment here. And then we'll move on to highlighting the brass areas and then the shoulder plates. And with the silver details highlighted, we're going to move on to the brass details. We're going to be using Aruric Armor Gold, which is a very nice bright gold colour, and highlighting the brass details with this. Now you could highlight this bit on the head here all the way down, but I'm just going to do the little top bit we got running along the back of the skull there. Not much need to, but it does just add a bit of highlight into that. So there's not much to do with the gold on the warriors. Just going to run it along this, along the top of that, a little flick around them, and that's pretty much all the highlighting you'll be doing on the gold stage, other than the pelvic joints, which is probably where you're going to take our most careful approach on the model, and just gently work your way around, leaving a little bit of the brass in the middle still. I'll show you again on this side. Just going to gently work our way around, leaving a bit of the brass left in the middle and in the recess. So we'll come back when these little bits are done, and we'll move on to our final edge highlight on the Necron Warrior before moving on to finishing off that glow effect. And there we are, with the gold details done, we can move on to our final edge highlight using Sotek Green on the blue shoulder plates. Now there is an additional stage that is optional at this stage, which would be to paint, using the Balthazar Gold again, some squad markings onto the shoulder plates. Typically I go for striped patterns, so for the first squad they'll have one stripe on both shoulders. The second squad will have two. It's a nice easy way, essentially like squad colourings you get on Marines. It's a nice way to differentiate model from model, at least if you're very particular about how the squads are made up. So with the Sotek Green, we're just going to go around the edge of the shoulders and up these little bits here, and then very gently, very carefully, we're going to go right up against the spine here and get that bit done as well. Now you may have noticed that we haven't done anything with the Ankh yet. That's because we're going to be going back over with the Balthazar Gold now. So we're going to do a squad marking at the same time. We'll see you when the blue highlights are done. So with the blue highlights done, we're going to move on to painting the ankh and the squad markings. So this will be for my second Necron Warrior squad. So we'll be having the squad markings for the second squad. First, for the ankh, you want to get a bit of paint on your brush, not much at all, and just gently run it over, and it will pick up on the raised detail. And there you have the ankh all painted up. For the squad markings, you might want a bit more paint. It's Balthazar Gold, it's quite a runny paint already. It doesn't need a lot of thinning out. And all we're going to do for this is we're going to go from the tip of the shoulder plate here in this little dip and just go down a straight line. And then a second one slightly longer along there. And that's our squad marking for the second squad. You can bring them right up over to this highlight if you want to. Bring it right up and over and tuck it under there, so it looks like it's continuous. You don't have to waste your paint and go underneath here, but you can if you want to. You can see I've got a bit too much of the highlight gold on here, so we're going to go back over that with Balthazar Gold whilst we're at this stage. And I also painted the handle and these little bars here in the same gold as the highlight. So with that done, we're going to move on to our glow effect, and this Necron Warrior is just about finished. Now the glow effect I've chosen is quite simple on the warriors. Same with Immortals. And it is simply a coat of Warp Lightning over the grey seer. So we're going to load up a bit on the brush, and we're going to come onto this bit and just coat it on. Put it onto the coils. Now if you find you're not liking how it looks, you can go over with another coat or choose a colour of your liking. It does look a lot nicer in person than it does on camera, and sorry about that, that's just the quality of camera I've got. Now don't worry about any spill on these black bits, it only helps with the glow. Same on the few little silver areas around it. The little splashes will just look like the light bouncing off. Obviously if you can avoid it, avoid it. If you're going for a more tidy look. Now for the eye, I'm going to try and get it with just the very tip of my paintbrush, and it's just going to run out of the eye. And you can see we've got that little bit just hanging out there, just about holding on. And with that, our Necron Warrior is now parade ready. It's quite a simple parade ready scheme. There's not a lot done, but there isn't a lot to do with such a simple colour scheme as the Nihilakh Dynasty. You know, unlike the Necron Dynasty, where you've got more shades to add, a lot more highlighting to do, the Nihilakh scheme, at least when done with my methods, is only a couple of highlights really. You could probably manage it without the silver highlights on the warrior and just do the weapon if you really wanted to save time and get it on the battlefield. Now, since this has already been a much longer tutorial, I'm not going to show you how to do it, and it's quite straightforward. But you've also got to paint the base edge rim, and for that I have chosen, for my warriors, I've chosen to use the Fang by Citadel, but you could use any colour you want. I've chosen the Fang as I like to have my Necrons to have a similar colour base edge to their main Dynasty colour. Or, like I do quite often with my Marines, to match the terrain, or to match the plasma glow if it's on a Marine with a plasma weapon. Or just leave it black. It's entirely up to you. but painting the base rim edge really does help sell out the miniature within the little world you created on the base. So thank you all for watching, and I hope this parade ready guide has helped you take your Necron Warriors from a battle ready standard up to a much nicer parade ready standard. So thanks for watching.